Hey there, my name is Priscilla. I'm so glad that you were here and that you were joining me for the chat. This is a great opportunity for you and I, as always, to talk about things that matter to you or that should matter to you. And listen, you have tuned in at the right time, the right show, because we are talking to a panel of articulate, handsome, well-spoken men who are going to be telling us the things we want to know about them, the things they think we need to know about them. And so we've solicited these guys to answer your question. Stay tuned, you are not going to want to miss this. Hey there, my name is Priscilla, and you are joining me for The Chat. This is our virtual living room. We have an opportunity to sit down and talk about some stuff that hopefully will impact your life in some way. So I hope you've got a warm drink and your shoes are kicked off and you're either tucked in your bed or on your own sofa so that you can relax and enjoy a conversation that's already been going on. So listen, this is part 2 of our conversation. You need to make sure you go back and see part 1 because this has been so good. I have a panel full of incredible guys right here who are helping to answer important questions that women are trying to figure out. Will you please help me welcome Jerry Shirer and Carlos Whitaker and Michael Jr. and Anthony Evans Jr. and Michael Boggs. Incredible guys. Okay, just because I have to ask, how was your experience on LA Inc.? We all remember you from LA Inc. What was that like?
You know, it's a reality show, which means it's an unreality show.
Yeah.
So, you know, people think that you just walk in off the street and you get a tattoo. But no, there's a casting call, the whole thing. It took 13 hours to do. But what I loved about the show was that my tattoo, which you can't see the whole thing, but it's Saul's conversion on the road to Damascus. And so they let me tell the story of Saul being converted into Paul and how he used to kill Christians. And they let me share the gospel on the Learning Channel, which was really amazing. And so that episode, it keeps re-airing for the last couple years. And I can tell whenever it re-airs, people start finding me on Twitter or whatever. But it was amazing. It was great. And I became really good friends with Hannah Atchison, the lady that did my tattoo.
Well,
so
that's cool. Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to ask all of you a question, but based on this tattoo that's on your arm.
Yes.
Because there are a whole lot of women that kind of like this whole bad boy image thing. I mean, they want a guy who, you know, has solid morals and all that stuff, but they like this little edge on a guy, this kind of this bad boy thing. And it gets a lot of women in trouble because they like the bad boy to the extent that they're actually making bad choices in their
really
dating.
bad.
He's really bad.
He slapped me. I didn't even know he was going to slap me. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so what do women need to look for if they want a good guy who maybe has a little bit of a bad boy edge on him, but he's not across the line? What are they looking for?
I think they need to create like a Yelp for men. They should probably talk to the ex and be like, how'd that work out? Like, for real, why not? Ladies, you guys, I mean, if you're going to buy a car, you want to know how many miles, I would at least go to Facebook. It's wide open.
Yeah.
What is she saying? And you know, you got to be, some of the stuff going to be way just bitter, but you can feel through that. If there's some pictures up there, she got this little line under her eye right there, maybe you should dip. Just dip. That's too bad. She's too bad, boy.
Okay, I want to ask you about ego. This is an important issue for men, and we cannot quite figure.
I don't got no ego. I'm just saying, I don't got no ego.
I don't believe you.
I don't. You got ego?
Would any of you say that you don't have a fairly strong ego that needs to be coddled and protected and cared for? Would any of you say you don't have one? You don't.
No, I got one.
You got one.
Yeah.
Okay. We can't figure this ego thing out. Could y'all please help us to understand how critical the care of your ego is, how we step around it, what we can do to encourage it? We just are confused. We're just confused.
Subjective.
It's subjective.
But for me,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's subjective depending on who you're dealing with. But for me, I don't have to be coddled. I just can never be purposefully emasculated. If you do that, we are gonna have a problem. We'll have a problem. Like, and I don't mean like that sounds threatening. I just mean our relationship is gonna have major issues if you emasculate. And I have to work on the whole dynamic of being told the truth. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. But it can be done in a way. Sometimes in relationships, I was in a relationship for a while and actually engaged, and that got fishy because the delivery was very like, I'm gonna belittle.
A way a woman talks to you can damage your ego.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the thing is this, I mean, I think in the bottom line is this: the Bible is very clear. Women, honor your husbands. Husbands, love your wives. The reason he says honor is because of our ego.
Yeah.
I mean, he created it. So it is there.
So respect. Respect is what helps to keep
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think my ego, it all goes back to the question we talked about in part one, where we're talking about being known. I really want to be known. And I think my ego is more about Carlos wanting to be known as who I think I am and who Christ has created me to be, or what I'm great at. When my wife, I walk in the door and I'm like, very first thing I do Sunday, I get done leading worship, I walk off stage, I go straight to her. And I'm like, so.
How was that?
I don't say it, but I'm waiting, right?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for her to tell me, that was you led me to Jesus and back, right? And like, it's my ego, which is just wanting really just my wife. That's who I'm wanting to hear from. And so, so I believe something is in that, and I think that's okay. I think as a human being, that's okay. We just want to be known, and
do you want to be our hero? Can I say that? Does it do something for you when you know you are her hero?
Yeah, who else is the hero?
Okay, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we
But
should.
what's the fine line between letting your man know you need him and not being needy? What's the fine line between making that man know, man, I need you, you're my hero, rescue me, kind of that feeling, but also being assertive and independent and being able to be what Anthony described earlier, what attracts him, he says, is a woman who's just doing her thing and she's got it together.
It's the
How do we
need
do
being
both
a
of
want.
those?
In my mind, in the relationship, it's the need, not necessarily being need, it's a want. It's the needy thing comes from I need you, I need you, I need you, as opposed to I've got my stuff together, but I want you. That creates like, that what Carlos was talking about earlier, of seeing you do you, and it, but you want me, and that's an ego, that's an ego thing of, I want you. You know what I mean? Like that to me, as opposed to need.
Even if she can get it done, I think the key is even if she can get the thing done, but she still comes to you and says, how do you think I should do this? That is phenomenal. So yeah, you can get it done, and if you just go get it done on your own, then good, you got it done. But if you come to me first and we agree on it, and you check off
So
with me,
just
whatever,
including you, even if it's something
including
I'm
me.
skilled in
And if I
myself
say,
to
yo,
do.
we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna do it, and there's just kind of respect that because I'm leading the house. In my case,
Yeah.
not his case so much. 'cause
Right.
she
Not
did.
so much my case,
Yeah.
but I can tell some of y'all's business. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
fine.
Yeah, family show. Go ahead.
Not bad.
Yeah,
But
shoot.
the way that these two operate, I'm trying to, I need to explain this to y'all. Priscilla is just raised in this family. My family, the girls are very assertive and just that they watched my dad, they watched my mom is that way, they've watched that. And when she got married to Jerry, he's running stuff. So at first, I can say that I was around for them figuring out that dynamic.
Yeah.
But Priscilla I watched her turn that part of her down to honor him and his ego, or whatever you want to call it. But it works. There are moments where she's like, I'll let Jerry decide. And I know my sister. I know that it would be her natural inclination to spit out the answer, and she'll just stop and be like, and that's the dynamic I've watched. I don't understand why you are talking.
He don't got no ego.
But that's the way y'all operate. So y'all should talk about that. We should talk about that. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Tell the people.
That's interesting. How do you feel about it, babe?
It is funny. Yes, but my wife does honor me, and
Try.
yes, you do, you do, and but she's very smart too. My wife's very smart because she knows. Let me just back up. I think this is what I saw with my grandparents. It's like everybody knew. My grandfather thought he ran the house, but everybody knew my grandmother ran it. But
Yeah.
she made him feel like
He ran it.
and that's the
I
thing.
see. So you ain't running nothing.
I'm not running nothing. I'm not running nothing. But she makes me feel like I'm running something.
Bang. Ooh, that's some money right there. I love that.
But really, she I have seen her, and I know this is a taboo word for women, whatever, but I've seen her submit but in her submitting makes me want to give her more.
Wow.
And we have to talk about that submission too. The whole idea of submission, the whole idea of leadership in the home. Women are asking that question about leadership because there are a whole lot of women that are having to take the reins in their own home to do devotions as with the family, or to take care of the finances because their husband is just not even living recklessly. He's just not managing it or leading the home in terms of direction and vision for the family. What does a woman need to know about what she could be doing to contribute to her husband not taking the reins in the family? Why? What makes it difficult for a guy to lead his home?
Well, let me tell you this. It is. If you look at the story of Genesis, okay, and if you look at where it talks about how, after the fall, and you see, the curse that falls upon the man and the woman. And of course, the man is going to be laboring all his days. But one of the things it says for the woman is that she's going to want to
Control him?
basically, yeah. Well, the thing is,
Yeah,
she,
Is that what
like
just
the-
happened just now with that sentence? he was like,
She was
I wasn't helping.
She helped. She could have been like, I got it. She helped. Lay off my family. I'm going to hurt you.
No. She said
Desire
it
to
says
rule over
desire.
you.
She said she's going to desire
that's
her
right.
husband.
Yeah.
Okay, but desire, as men, we think, yeah, she's going to want to desire me. She's going to want me. But that word desire isn't that. It is, I want to control you. I want to be able to control you. The same thing that it said. That same word desire is used with Cain and Abel. And it is that control thing. And so what I think the thing that we have to, or I know for a woman, what she has to do is submit to that. And I think that's what's so hard a lot of times.
But what does
is
she
that-
submit to if there's a woman watching, her husband is not leading?
Here's
Like
that to me
he's
the
not
bigger-
doing it. How does she submit?
Well, I think one of the things is, and I think which is hard, but allowing him to fail. There are sometimes you have to allow him to
Okay,
fail.
so let him take the
you have
reins
to
and
allow
fail.
him to fail. Yeah, you have to allow
What
him
if
to
the
fail.
failure is going to affect her? What if there's going to be a financial
Here's the thing.
failure
Here's
and
the
it's
thing.
going to affect the
I
whole
guess
family?
my thing is this: is it? See, when I say that, if it's a failure if he's trying to lead and live and he makes the bad decision, that's one thing, rather than
reckless.
him reckless living, certain with sin and all that. That's totally different.
Okay.
See, men think, or women think that men are all cool. Yo, submit to me, like that's a great thing. But when you submit to me, that means I need to be right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure. So ideally, I would like for you not to submit all the time. Let's talk about this and work this thing out. And then when you do submit, and I got to be right. So it's more pressure for a woman to submit because now I got to be on point with this. If it does not work out, it was still my choice. You need to still have my back.
Okay,
But-
can one of you
but let me say
define
this- I'm sorry,
submit
let me just
though?
say
Can
this,
you?
But let me just say this real
Okay.
quick.
He just
It
did
also
it. He
starts.
just made you
It
submit when
also
he saw it.
starts. It also starts at this stage right here, the single stage.
Okay.
What I'm saying, because when you choose a man that you want to marry, it is what you're saying is, I trust him to lead my life.
So you need to already be thinking about that when you're dating a guy.
Absolutely.
Do I see him leading
Absolutely.
now?
Submission is not going to automatically click on once you say I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And leading doesn't mean, I don't think leading means the man is in charge of the finances.
Okay.
I don't think that's what it means, because I know in my home, I can't add. My wife is really good at it, right? She remembers to pay bills.
Yeah.
I don't. And
Yeah.
there's a gift set that she's got that I don't have. And so like I could be all strong and manly and try to be like all my other man friends that are paying the bills, but she's better at it than me. I think the manly thing for me to do is say, you're better at this than me. I'm going to allow you to do this, and I'm going to do what I'm good at. You know, and so
submission doesn't mean control.
no.
Right.
That doesn't
so
mean
what
control.
does submission? What does that mean to you? Describe what submission looks like to you.
To me, submission looks like you evaluate your relationship, and it's almost like for, I tell people you can't have two heads of anything. Two heads is a monster. So what you have to do is when you guys sit down, you look at the gifts that you have in your relationship, in your marriage, as a leader. And as that leader, I have to say, okay, yeah, you're great at this. I'm gonna give you this control over this area right here. I'm gonna take this, and you work together. But even though you are, there are times where I think the submission role changes, because if you're good at something, if say the finances, well, then I'm submitting to you as you lead this aspect of our family. You know, even though I am still, you know, head. But that's it. But I'm willing to submit for that, you know, in this particular area.
Okay.
So a woman, her language when thinking about doing something, instead of being "I'm going to do this," it should probably be "I want to do this," until she brings it to him, and then he can submit to her and say, "That's a great, I love that," and then she says, "I'm going to do this now."
Okay.
Because she has his
Now, let me ask you this, because it would seem like in the midst of all this, as you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure that is on a male when he knows that he's leading a family, he's got to do this right, and he's going to want to do it well. If you all don't have accountability personally for yourself, I can see how it would be very easy for a lot of men who to just kind of take this leadership thing out of control and not to lead their families in a way that's wise. So if a woman is married to a man that does not have any accountability, he just is not open enough with any other guy that can speak wisdom into his life, how does she gently encourage him in the direction of having some relationship in his life to which he can remain accountable? If she wants that for him, telling him he needs to be accountable, ain't gonna do it. So how does she encourage? Would you tell a woman who's watching and they were trying to figure out, how do I encourage my man to get some accountability?
I think this sounds like the Sunday school answer, but I don't think you can ever underestimate the power of prayer.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I had a friend, one of my best friends actually, his family growing up, the dad would be considered completely unaccountable. Had no one in his life to tell him, this is the wrong road, you shouldn't go this way. And she told me that every morning she placed her hand on his back before he woke up and prayed for him every morning. And things didn't change for a couple of years. In fact, I think most of my childhood, nothing changed until one day he heard a message at church and he gave his life to Jesus. And the guy, he is a changed man. And I can attribute, I think, a lot of that change to those quiet mornings where she placed her hand on his back and prayed for him.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we can ever underestimate the power of God changing us.
Yeah, so not
as
talking to
opposed
him, talking to God.
me trying to change somebody.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think, I'll just talk about me, myself. I went through a long season in my life where I was not leading my family, and my wife was leading my family. We had a lot of gentle conversations, Those gentle conversations didn't do a thing. And so what ended up, she could have blown up and gotten mad, but you know what worked for us is, our therapist told us this. There is this garden in your life that the man is supposed to tend to. And what my wife was doing was tending to the garden because I wasn't tending. So submission for her looked like taking that rake, taking that shovel, and stepping back out of the garden and just leaning those tools up against me, just leaning them up against me. And I know this is super metaphorically speaking, but for me, what I realized was all of a sudden, when my wife stopped tending to that, I kind of looked around and was like, man, things are getting real messy around here. Well, it's because she stopped. And when she stopped, I realized, well, maybe I got to roll my sleeves up. Maybe I've got to grab the shovel. Maybe I got to go start cleaning the yard.
So do you think that the reason why a lot of men aren't leading is because women aren't making room for them to lead?
Absolutely. They're doing it all. They're doing it all. And so, the man is playing Xbox till 2 o'clock in the morning. We're talking to little third graders on this little,
Now
PlayStation
this is going to be
thing.
hard for us women, isn't it, to just step back and lean the tools up against the garden and hope that they go get the tools.
I know.
That's
and
going to be hard.
It's not hoping. It's conversations. It took a lot of work,
Yeah.
But once, I think for me, once I started working in the garden, I was like, I'm actually pretty good at this,
Yeah.
And then that submission started to happen for us. And it's taken years, but a lot of people don't want to hear that it takes years. But it's amazing what I've seen happen just in my own life, of slowly watching my wife give me some of those tools and allow me to start leading the family.
Okay.
So
that was good. Thank you very much.
What will happen when we have churches that really let the word of Christ dwell in them richly? What will happen when we have teenagers and children who really let the word of Christ dwell in them richly? We think marriages are going to be healthy. We think churches are going to be transformed, that communities are going to be impacted as Christians start to obey the text in their context, in their setting.
You think about the Bible. The Bible is the revelation of God. In fact, John says that it is the revelation of Jesus Christ. If we are to know God, then we must know him through the Bible. Explore the Bible will help us to do that.
So the heart behind Explore the Bible really is Colossians 3:15 and 16. Let the peace of Christ control your hearts. Verse 16 is, let the word of Christ dwell among you richly. So we want to say, hey, churches, church leaders, pastors, do you want a congregation, do you want a small group, do you want a Sunday school class filled with people that speak to one another in wisdom, that encourage each other, that admonish one another, that are filled with gratitude in their hearts to God, that they sing and they celebrate the salvation that God's given them? Do you want a group of people like that? Then you have to let the word of Christ dwell among them richly.
The exploration of the Bible, book by book, for groups of all ages, from senior adults to young adults to students to kids of all ages. If everyone is studying the same book, imagine the possibility of revival based upon the study together in community as a group, studying the text in its context. Imagine the possibility of letting the word of Christ dwell in you richly.
Whenever we're squeezed, whenever people in our groups or in our churches are squeezed, whatever's in them is going to come out. If the word of Christ is deeply in them, then that's what's going to come. They're going to speak to one another with wisdom. They're going to sing songs to God. They're going to be filled with gratitude. What's in you is going to come out of you. And so we want to do everything we can to help churches and help small groups and Sunday school classes get the word of Christ deeply, richly in the people.
When you are so outnumbered, so unable to complete that impossible task, so in over your head that you couldn't see the light of day even if you tried, you are exactly where God wants you. This is a God who loves weakness. He loves weakness because His strength is perfected in weakness. Are you choosing to stand firmly on the promises of God's word or on the faulty, shaky philosophies of our culture? Because the way we stand now has every bearing on the way this thing is going to end up. I want to spend a little time talking about the S word, sex. Okay, so that word came up in the very first part of our conversation. I mean, I didn't even have to ask a question about that. One of y'all just mentioned it right off the bat.
We were talking about it already. We were talking
You were
about it
already
before.
talking about it.
We were talking about it.
Could you please tell women are, remember this whole show is about what women need to know about you, okay? So I'm going to ask a huge general statement and you just take it wherever you'd like to take it, all right? What do women need to know about the importance of sex in your life? Because we don't get it. So we need to know why it's so important to you and what we need to do about it. Go ahead. We're ready.
It's fun.
Feels great.
Yeah, what? Yeah. And that's fun. And
Come on, there has to be more to that, though. There are a lot of wives, I don't think, who really get what it does for the man. It's more than just fun, I know, but there is a boost to your ego. There is emotional satisfaction. There are other things that it does for your life that I don't think women are aware of. We just think it's all about the physical,
here's one of the
and I think
things.
it's more than that.
One of the things is women are pretty complex. They could be pretty complex. I mean, you got to navigate. The wrong tone? What happened? I don't know. Like, it's all of these things we got to navigate. So at the end of the day, if we actually had sex, we did something right throughout that day.
That's what it means to you?
Like, something happened. Like, it's a small little victory. It's like, yo, look what happened. I did it. So it's like the chase was on all day, and now the victory is there.
But do y'all really feel like that? Do you feel like the chase is kind of on all day?
That's one of them. There's probably 75 answers, but that's one of them, so you got that much closer.
But do you feel that way? Do you really feel like are you thinking about that kind of all day, like the chase is on all day and the goal is to get to this encounter later on today?
We do it in the morning, so like it's...
Okay, I'm saying at whatever point it's going to happen, is it a goal for you?
Yo, because if you do it in the morning,
We're
then
off
you don't got,
task.
you can set the tools back up against
That's
the
right.
fence.
That gotta get
I feel like we're so off task right now.
With it. I love it.
Come on, I'm going. We're going to sit here until y'all give us a good answer for this, because women are wondering why there is such a disconnect between our innate initial interest and desire for sexuality, by and large, is not the same as yours because it means something more to you. It does something more for you than it does for females in general. We're trying to figure out. This is one of the main questions I got. Trying to figure out what is the deal with why sex is so critical, like it's at the top of your list.
I'm gonna say
Communication
some of
for
it.
us.
I bet some of it, and let's
Sex
be real,
for you.
fellas. Some of it. Remember in the locker room, as boy, you'd be in the locker room with your fellas. You just playing football, or whatever sport, and you would talk about or brag about like it was a conquering thing, kind of. Not that I haven't had a lot of women, but all the dudes would always talk about, yo, she was fine, yo, she all on me, she loved me, and all. And we built up a mindset of it's a little victory. Yeah, it's a victory. And now you have your wife, unless you don't. And now you get to get victories once. So I feel like it's like a little.
So is it a bit of a challenge thing, and you feel this sense of
It
accomplishment
needs to be
as
a
well?
challenge. Because it is not.
I mean, okay, I think there's accomplishment, but I also think we live in such a sexualized society,
Yeah.
right? That it's become. It's so touchy. I mean, it is so touchy. You can't drive down Highway 65 without seeing billboards. You're looking this way and that way. You can't get on Facebook without seeing things. And so, I know that women feel like, wow, like I can't live up to that. And so what I am feeling the pressure to do is to make my wife feel more beautiful than the images she's seeing me see. And so, man, suddenly it starts getting real complicated really fast, And so, for me, and my wife tells me this all the time, sex for us starts way before sex, And so when we can
For
start.
men or for women, it starts
I think
way
for me
before.
too. I think for me too. I texted my wife this morning, I love you, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Now, sorry to say this,
ahead.
honey, but
Go ahead.
the purpose, I'm kind of a little bit horny today.
Dude, you just woke up.
I said that. Listen. So I'm gonna say this, right? So I'm thinking, I want to get to Heather tonight. Hold on. No. I want to get to Heather tonight. I'm gonna tell her I just got done working out. It was 6 a.m. I just got done lifting
Yeah.
weights. I'm feeling,
Manly.
So right. I text her, I love you, exclamation. I said, it's gonna be a wonderful day. And she texted me 30 minutes later, I love you too, period, without an exclamation point.
Okay.
Now, you wouldn't think that made a big deal. But I remember feeling completely devastated. Like, well, I'm not having sex today. I did something wrong. She didn't give me 3 exclamation points. Now, does this not sound like a female thing?
He's an
Yeah,
emotional.
You would think
Yeah,
I'm an emotional guy, right? But I want to let you guys know that a lot of women put men in this generalized category.
Didn't you just have sex that morning?
Oh, not this morning. It was too early.
Oh, I'm confused.
A lot of women put men. See, and here's the danger.
In this category that
in
you
this
don't have that
category, 'cause I'm hearing you
emotional-
say-
okay.
I'm hearing you saying it.
that's
I'm hearing
good.
you asking this question about men. You want to have sex. You want
Yes.
to conquer. That's not the case for all men.
Okay.
And I think there's going to be a lot of women that are married to men like me that are emotional, that need 3 exclamation points after a text and not a period in order for me to feel like I'm on my way.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
There we go.
you don't
Not
need
this guy. Not this guy.
no exclamation points needed.
Nope.
I think there's an obvious explanation point that happens. I mean, when it's all said and done, there's an explanation point there. I think what's really important is that for me, and I'll say this, and me and my wife have talked about this, is it's not always the act of sex, it's really the availability as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and if you didn't, you would have been cool had you not had sex, but if you would have got the exclamation point.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
I think women assume
I know that sounds crazy.
that intimacy, that connection is not critical to you. That
Yes.
you are able to, in fact, when we did the women's panel where we kind of did this vice versa, one of the women said, it's possible for us to have an argument and an hour later, he's okay having sex. And I'm still
20 minutes.
Oh, sure.
Right after.
10 minutes. You still
Okay,
mad?
we
This
don't
could
we
be
don't
fun.
get that. We feel like there has to be an emotional connection in order for you, or we feel like you guys don't need that emotional connection. Is that not accurate?
Anger is an emotion.
It just
I
seems
wanna point that out.
subjective. It just depends on who
It
you're
depends.
dealing with.
Okay,
to me,
for
I
this
don't.
pool,
I mean,
Michael Boggs, you are so quiet back there. I'm dying to know what it is that you're thinking about.
We're not talking about sex. We're not talking about sex.
No, I think it's, for me, I'm probably similar to Carlos in the sense of
Worship leader.
that
All
it's
of them
it's
musicians.
musicians.
I'm writing a song about it, right now. No, but I think for me, it's there's a little bit of that chase, throughout the day, and intimacy is expressed different ways, and sex is one of those. But it's not necessarily always for me that it takes that expression to communicate intimacy.
Yeah.
Sex
Okay.
does that, and it's enjoyable and it's great. It's just not the only way.
Can I
Do
answer
you-
from a single dude's thing?
Yes, I would
Oh,
love
no,
that,
go,
Anthony.
go what you were
You
saying,
do
what
that
you were gonna
first,
say.
and then I'll ask a question. Go ahead.
Here's what I think. This is the importance of sex to a single Christian male.
Good.
Okay, that kind of
Yes.
sounds fishy.
Right.
We'll be
I know.
right back.
Don't have
I know. What is that? I know. That's is that as a Christian male.
That you want some.
No, that. But you have is that I consider the way we were raised. I consider it to be something sacred and something that I want to experience with my wife. And if I am with a girl who does not consider it to be that it's a deal breaker to me if she pushes that envelope. If she knows how sacred it is to me, knows how guys are wired, and tries to like spark the wire. Thinking that, and that's just how it goes sometimes with Christian girls. They're like, I can get him. If I can get that, I can get him. And that's where it gets messed up. So if I'm a Christian male trying to keep that part of my life sacred and set apart, and that is very important to me. And if I'm with a girl who doesn't consider it to be that important, then
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
What does it do? Thank you for that, Anthony.
anyway.
What does it do to a man's psyche, his ability to be faithful in his marriage? What does it do to him when the sexual relationship between he and his wife is just waning? It's just non-existent, or there's no passion there. It doesn't happen regularly. What kind of position does that put you in? I'm asking this question because my husband has said to me before, that's a dangerous spot for him to be in.
Absolutely. It
So talk
causes
to
him
us
to
about
be
that.
extremely creative. So now his mind is like, yo, what the deal? When I get home, ain't nothing cracking. Should I just finish singing? All these ladies around me? Oh, shoot. For real. So then he starts doing the math on, it's not going down at the crib. Okay, Lord, but I'm going to stay strong. Wait, what's your name? It's a lot,
Yeah.
it's a struggle. So the creativity starts to jump up and the devil starts to talk, and it gets easier to hear what he's talking about. So they gotta,
Absolutely. I know for us, I travel for a living. I speak and I lead worship, and most of my trips are 2 or 3 days. And and this is where, whether or not we're fighting or not, we make sure we have sex before I go on that trip. Because honestly, your eyes are just open to a lot more things when you haven't.
Absolutely.
And so it's just true. A regular sex life, I think, is important. I can be emotional, and I can be, I want exclamation points and periods, all that stuff. But at the same time, I know if I don't get it before I go on a trip, then there's probably going to be a lot more that I see that I don't need to see.
Right.
Even on the way back. Here's the money, ladies. If your man travels and on the way back you're absolutely gonna take care of him, that stuff helps out so much, because now you like, I'm about to be home, and one day I ain't tripping, or whatever the case. It's just so much easier to, and praying.
72
72
hours. Tell
hours.
us the 72-hour rule,
I
Jerry.
like that.
Don't you know it? I'm just wondering.
I mean,
Oh.
I'm just saying, he told me the 72-hour rule.
You remember great Bible teacher. Remember Miss
Bunny
Kay?
Wilson,
Miss
Kay Arthur. Kay Arthur said
Arthur.
this. What did you say?
Absolutely.
Refresh my memory.
It was
I want
just.
you to hear it. I want you to say it. I want you to say it. Go ahead. I want to get this on record.
It was. I don't remember all the details, but it was something like every 72 hours.
Do it.
Like Pretty much. It shouldn't go longer than
No,
72
longer
hours.
than 72 hours.
And there was a psychological, biological reasoning in a male's body why it's very hard to go beyond 72
I'm
hours.
gonna write that down real quick.
Yeah, well, I kind of got it. So,
Okay,
You got it.
yeah.
You got it. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys think would be important for a woman to know about satisfying, pleasing, fulfilling a man? How can a woman who's watching make sure her man is fulfilled? Each one of you should have an answer for that. What makes you feel most fulfilled? Emotionally, physically, otherwise, whatever. What makes you feel most fulfilled? Michael, we just have to start with you.
You know, I think for Keely and I, when she believes in me more than I believe in myself, I think for me that is fulfillment that is like nothing else.
That's great. Anthony, what can a woman do to make you feel fulfilled?
I think that's the artist answer. That really is the.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great answer, but that's it. That's it.
Okay. Michael.
I think for my wife always does this thing where I'll take some risk. I mean, it'll be some big, and it doesn't make any sense, but I clearly feel like God is saying this, and he hasn't necessarily spoken to her about it, but I know, and then she says, and the math doesn't make sense at all. There's no way this makes sense on paper. And my wife says, okay, if this is what you want to do, I'm completely behind you. And when she does that, and then the thing works out, oh, snap. Or even before it works out, I'm like, that
Just knowing
is my
she's with you.
queen. My goodness, she is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think for me is knowing that I'm trusted and knowing that I'm known. There's just that innate desire for my ethos, everything that is me, to be known. And so when I know my wife knows me and she's desiring to know me and she is asking questions about my day and about my trip and about my, hey honey, I just wrote this song. You may not even have to like it. Don't even tell me you like it. Just listen to it. Those small things for me are I think what really connects me.
That's good. Babe, what can I do to make you happy?
Well, you do make me happy.
I'm so glad.
But it is one of the
Yeah,
things.
right.
One of the things is, and I think if anybody heard you speak before, they know that, you always tell people how your personality is. You see something kind of like Michael Jr. Hey, let's go do it.
Spontaneous. Yeah.
Spontaneous. I'm one. I think about it. I need to process it, which is not your personality. So for you to wait on me to make this decision, even though it's driving you crazy, and I know it's driving you crazy, but still for you to be quiet and allow me to process it. I mean,
Be quiet.
Yes.
it is, that
Give you time and space.
Yes, that is big for me because I know that you are now, outside of your normal character.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm trusting him to make the right decision on this and go through it, even though I'm ready to move now.
Yeah.
So.
You guys have given us great advice. Great advice. Will you guys please help me thank them? We are so glad that every single one of you have come. And listen, I want you to know that every single one of these guys have incredible books, CDs, ministries, businesses. These are incredibly articulate, accomplished guys, and each and every one of them has some way that you need to connect with them, get to know more about them, and they have offerings for you that can be a blessing into your life. And so right below this web show, you're going to see links to all of their websites so you can connect with them, follow them on Twitter, get involved in what they're doing. It's some good stuff. And so we are so grateful for all that you've poured into these two shows. This has been really good. Thanks for helping us to get in on the minds of men. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Robert.